Okay, so right now I'm out weeding and found a great teachable moment happening here that I think many will benefit from. So here we go. I'm out weeding in this little area by this tree. Now, there's a lot of weeds, and I, an avid weeder, call me Bee Weedy if you must, Bee Weedy, or Weedy Bee, whatever. Moving on. So this is more or less a fairly simple weed job because, as you can see, there's plenty. So and they're pretty big, so not a big deal. Usually they come up pretty quick. But what happens in life is much like me weeding this little section of land. So there's a rose bush across the way. Over there. Rose bush. It got trimmed not too long ago. And the trimmings of it got thrown in this little area. No big deal. But if you know anything about rose bushes, they're very thorny. So as I'm weeding, I keep getting these random moments where suddenly, boom, thorn right in my finger, and I become Bee Thorny, and I don't get very happy about that. I cuss and I go, get real upset about it for a moment, and then I continue on my journey of weeding. And so in this moment, I find that, oh, this is life. Thus is life. Such is life, whatever the phrase. Now, if any gardeners are out there, and you know what I'm talking about, keep in mind that that's happening on just a scale of gardening. But this happens every day in our life with any situation that hurts us. Something that should be without thorn suddenly has a thorn, and we say ouch, and we throw the thorn to the side, pull it out, and we continue doing what we were doing. And then it happens again, ouch, thorn. We pull it out, move whatever it is to the side, continue what we're doing. But if you notice, very subtly, your body deceives you. What your mind and what your intention of what you're going to keep doing starts to be a little bit less fearless and a little bit more fearful. And you start fearing those thorns, and you start getting anxious, if you're like me anyways. And I'm confident this is across the board, every person, and you either realize it or you don't. As you go along, so for me, as I'm going along, I start getting anxious about pulling the weeds, and I'm like hesitating, and I go to grab them, and I start pulling back, and I'm like, I don't know about this, and I start looking for the thorns instead of looking for the weeds. And then it starts turning into like a subtle chaos. So in that moment, what you're witnessing is the beautiful self-preservation of your own body. But as beautiful as that is, as much as you can see, wow, I really have a will to survive, that can also be equated to the devil. The devil will always remind you of those thorns. He'll always remind you of the time that it hurt as you find that beautiful flower, or as you find that beautiful tree, and you're just trying to clear it up and make it less weedy. It's going to make you go, maybe that's not the tree for me, because I see that maybe there's a thorn in there. I see maybe there's a wasp in there that stung me, or a bee that landed on me and scared the living daylights out of me because I'm allergic, whatever the case. And so it's just and little things like that in your life, you can see and find the ways in which the devil comes at you, the way in which the fear starts to override the love and the trust and the faith in your life. And I don't necessarily have a tip or a trick. It's one of those things that it's just more of a thing to notice. Is there any place in your life that you used to show up wholeheartedly with nothing but enthusiasm and eagerness and excitement and faith and trust and love, because it's one of those things that it's like you love so much, but now maybe you don't show up in it as often, or now maybe you show up more hesitantly, or now maybe you show up more cautiously. And I would say, if you want to make a big change in your life, look at those areas and look at what those thorns were. Look at what those bee stings were, those wasp stings, those whatever the case is of what scared you and hurt you, that's preventing you from showing up in your life again. Because if you're sad at all, if you're anxious at all, if you're feeling less fulfilled, if you're in, you're finding that you drink more often or that you have fallen back to addiction, chances are there's something in your life that you love more than anything, that you let a few series of thorns and bee stings make you feel afraid of altogether, of the thing that wasn't even that thing, but just the thing that had that around it. Like, it might be a little bit confusing, whatever. So it's important that as you go along in life, as you're weeding your garden, as you're weeding your mind, as you're weeding your heart, that you don't let the thorns that were left there from the last time keep you from finishing the whole garden. That is your soul, that is your being, that is your spirit. Because once you finish weeding it, it's going to look so beautiful. And you're going to be like, man, I'm so happy I didn't let that one thorn and that one patch get me, or even those 2 thorns, or those 3 thorns. There's going to be a lot of thorns in the thing that you love the most, because the devil knows that if you really get going in the thing you love the most and you don't let anything take you down, then God's got you, and that's what he doesn't want, right? So this is just a little FYI, I guess, or just a little insight. I've become a really fearful person over the years, especially in love, as I'm sure all of us have. And my fiance now, I love her more than anything, but I told her, I said, and this was a while back, I said, I was never afraid to love until I met you. And that caught me off guard. I had finally become me. Anybody that knows me knows I'm trans. Well, I was born intersex. So less trans, more just choosing which way I want to go. I was kind of just already a blank neutral state, but so I finally chose to be me, and then God brought me to her like a week, 2 weeks later, and she was the most beautiful thing I've ever seen, and we have a son, and here I am, like, wow, it's all working out for me, but I have a lot of thorns that I'm staring at because of all these relationships I've been in the past that they didn't work out, that I got cheated on, all these fears coming up, and as I'm weeding out myself, I keep hitting these thorns, and then the fear arises, and then I start focusing less on the flower that, God showed me first, and I start focusing on all the thorns that the devil convinced me to leave there. Our relationships in our life is a product of the thorns that we're leaving in our garden and the flowers that we're now scared to water. So I'll leave it there. Hope you guys have a blessed day. Don't be afraid to get a thorn in the finger to get to that flower that you want to smell.